How many attendees do we have?
As of right now, we have 54, and they
Oh,
can
hello
hear us
everyone.
in our
Hello world.
broadcasting.
Oh, they cannot hear us.
No, they can.
Oh, well, hello world.
They can't talk back.
Okay.
It's listen only.
Yes, yes. Well, all right. So I guess we got our document here. So I guess we can start. Well, hello everyone. Thanks for showing up. So I mean, you have the crew here, myself, John, and Ramesh. So I guess we're starting. So we're starting. We are kicking off this new thing called the EEA Working Group. It's a bit of an experiment between EEA and eea-eth. So we're not super specific on all the things we want this to do. We want to be sort of all-encompassing for sort of all things necessary to get large enterprises to be willing to use Mainnet. And this can include things like them helping to write standards. It could include just evangelism. It could include, if there's like some special things that they need. And so, say Ernst & Young needs something for their nightfall, and they need some fancy zero knowledge, primitive as an EIP. We would help them write that, and we would campaign to get that included. So the goal is sort of an omni effort to making Ethereum mainnet business compatible. And yeah, so I know that's kind of what we're here for. John?
Well, hey everybody, it's really exciting. This has been 5 years in the making. You might ask why. We had over 200 signups for the Mainnet Working Group kickoff session here. We had a great turnout at DevCon, and even more people wanting to get the recording of this and maybe even have another session just for folks that couldn't make it today. So that's a lot of interest, and I think the reason is I think we probably all agree that the time for convergence and the time for enterprise use of the mainnet, of this always on middleware layer for the stateful internet, is kind of the way I put it. It's time. It's time for us to really focus on that and to do what we did in 2015 over again, where we businesses across the world wouldn't say the word blockchain on day one, and within a number of about a year of work, they wouldn't stop saying blockchain. Well, now what we need to say is, hey, you know what? There are safe and effective ways for enterprises, serious businesses, let's say. I mean, you'd be a 4-person startup, and if you're handling grandma's pension or working with private information, you have the same kinds of issues that any enterprise does. And so this is, enterprise is a little bit, let's say enterprise the way we would say it in Star Trek, right? The enterprises as opposed to big giant companies. That's not the only domain of this work, right? It's really the serious use of the mainnet in business, and both preparing the mainnet and making sure that the mainnet is structured in a way that it works the way that people need it to work for business, especially for private, confidential business-to-business relationships, where you have to worry a lot about leaking strategic intelligence to other parties, as well as so it's also things like scaling and the right kinds of non-functional requirements that we need to focus on, and we need the developer community that is building the Ethereum protocols to know with some focus what those issues are, especially where they might not be obvious without this input. So that's why we're here. We're here to make the mainnet safe for business and business safe for the mainnet, and show the way. So it's not just about standards work, it's about a variety of efforts to turn that corner and kind of usher in this new epoch of convergence. With that said, I'll go through very quickly how we're organized. We were formed and ratified early this fall by the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, which will be the organizing body, but this is clearly a cooperative effort with the Mainnet, with the Ethereum Foundation. And I think that's a first. And very exciting. So, it's great that one of the main Ethereum Foundation folks is the chair. We will be holding elections annually for chair, vice chair, and then we have convener. Ramesh is on the line, and he'll talk in a minute about that. And then we have a secretariat, Brianna, who you heard earlier, and we'll have editors and other roles as necessary. We have a set of rules for how we do governance, and we will be evolving those in working group sessions over time. Working group sessions will be at 1200 hours GMT every other Friday, and will be Enterprise Ethereum Alliance EEA working members will be invited to that. So I really encourage you. It's not expensive and it's easy to do to become an EEA member. But that said, if you're not an EEA member or if you can't become one, there will be lots of activities for non-EEA members as well, but just not in the voting on and participating in EEA specifications, especially when those specifications are over and above the mainnet, public open source work, and when they get into things that might be higher up the stack and industry focused, those would be member only activities. But there'll be lots of non-member activities if you don't want to be an EEA member, but we really encourage you to be. It's a good organization to be part of, especially if you want to join this particular new working group. You can RSVP. We'll be sending out this document to folks who are on this call. Brianna will be doing that before tomorrow, and then you'll have these links to how you RSVP for the meetings and how you sign up and how you get into the main network, how you would even become involved in the EEA. Task forces are this should say task forces, but it doesn't. Are the subgroups of the the Mainnet Working Group, or MWG, that will really be doing the important functions and initiatives. The primary one is the standards task force, where we will help provide coordinated input into the open source developer community through things like EIPs and ERCs, and documents that we will just simply publish and say, hey, these are the priorities of the enterprise community as we see them. And that, of course, becomes a subject of conversation for the open source developer community, which is the way it should be. The EEA is not the standard setting body for the mainnet, nor should it be, nor will it be. So that, I think, Virgil, that's important to say, right? Virgil might be muted, so I'll move on. So just a few examples of task forces that one might, it's really up to you and the participants of the working group to propose, ratify, and staff. There are rules about it. Three member organizations need to make up a task force, and there will be and presumably they'll be meeting every other Friday from the main group session. So if you're on a task force, you might be in a meeting regarding the task force or the working group every week. There's use case research, enterprise systems interop. I'm not going to go into the details of these because they don't exist yet, but they might if you want to pursue these things. Enterprise identity, enterprise privacy and confidentiality. There's an interesting one around an enterprise mining pool to make it more palatable for enterprises to feel like there really is the kind of decentralization in the network that they'd like to see, and evangelism. Because ultimately, it's not just about standards; it's about hearts and minds. We need to have decision makers across the world who currently, by and large, if you talk to people, don't have an appetite to talk about the mainnet. They'll talk about private blockchain, but they won't talk about using the public mainnet in business practices or business operations. And we're here to say, no, there are ways to use it safely and effectively, and we're going to explain those to you. So with that, I'd like, we thought it'd be good to give you an idea about what one of these task forces might look like. So Ramesh is here to do that. Ramesh is from the IEEE and has a huge pedigree in standards and practices. So Ramesh, can you take it away?
Yeah, do you guys hear me? Hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. Hi, John, I think you're sharing like 2 pages. Are you able to share like a 1-page zoom in on your document?
I'll try to,
Okay.
Oddly, I haven't figured out how to do that, but while you're talking, I will.
Okay, you can try. So Ramesh here, and I'm based in San Francisco Bay Area. About 10 years ago, I used to be a full-time developer, coding on C++ and MATLAB, and was my full-time job. Last 3 years, I've been involved with standards development in the IEEE standards organization. So I kind of understand both mindsets. I still, I've taken like Ethereum bootcamp and all that for coding, and I have a startup. We're using Ethereum for issuing tokens for mortgage loans. So I still understand both communities, how the the Ethereum community works, and and also the enterprise. As I said, I've been working with IEEE, working with about 23 companies trying to develop standards for blockchain for IoT. So I think this is where I was asked by Ron Resnick because of my understanding of this, as well as I've spoken at about 36 conferences in the last 18 months, including like European Parliament and Alicante government. And I understand that standards is something that I keep hearing from all these parties, the government, and of course enterprises, and of course Ethereum community wants to work with I guess enterprise and government because they want it to be adopted, right? If you have standards, then adoption becomes easier. So that's kind of where I come in to see if I can help, like the Ethereum community, eea-eth and the EEA, see if my experience could be of use here, to develop some, standard or kind of technical spec that could help with the adoption of Ethereum and create a bigger ecosystem, right? A business as well as enterprise governments. So governments, and I keep hearing from government, different governments, that they really want to know that if they're developing a product, they want, they don't want to keep spending every 2-3 years to develop a new solution for for tax collection or whatever, right? So standards is very critical. That's why I'm interested in getting involved with this work. I mean, it's going to be challenging to bring 2 communities together to work on something like this, but it's also going to be exciting. When exciting things are never easy, right? Always involves some challenges. So I just put together some outline on how we would run this group. Obviously, this is a working document, and I started with very high level, like a structure, because you needed some structure. Just think of this as like, we have road rules, right? And everybody follows the road rules. Everything is peaceful. We all get to where we want to. Everything is fine. But when 1 or 2 person does something weird on the road, it messes up the entire traffic, and nobody is peaceful, right? So same thing. There are some rules that we have to follow to run the meeting productively and efficiently and professionally. So we are focusing on the technical issues and come up with inputs to develop the standards, right? That's kind of how I look at it. You can this document is made available to everybody, so you can go through this. So there are some common courtesy kind of things that you'd have to follow, like when you want to yeah, maybe John, if you can zoom in, because the text is too small. I know he's trying.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, but I think I'm stuck. I found no way to make Word do that on this screen.
I see. Okay. Well, I guess I will make it available. I'll just go through the things, very highlights here. I think maybe I'll take like, I don't know, maybe another 4 minutes. So basically things like, when you want to, talk about, when you want to contribute something or just, participate in the discussion, please use the web chat, and, you'll get in the queue. We'll go through one by one, first come, first, serve kind of process that we would follow. And the general structure of the meeting is like this, right? So we have an agenda. Every meeting will have an agenda, and the agenda would be prepared at least a week before the meeting date, right? And if anyone wants to talk, present something, they should actually email the chair and the secretary actually a week before, so it gets on the agenda. So and then the agenda will be shared with all the participants, right? And then at the meeting, you just go through the agenda one by one. And if you have to make a motion, the motion must be made, and it must be seconded. And if there's a discussion, you have to discuss, and if there are any objections, those kind of things. That it's called Robert's Rules of Order. And of course, it's a pretty big, heavy book about how to run parliamentary procedures. But you really don't have to. We don't have to stick to like rules. The chair can decide. The chair and the vice chair and myself, we can decide how to what extent we adhere to the rules. But it helps to keep it structured, so we can get things done, right? So basically, when you want to make a motion, follow the motion, discussion, and then you restate the motion. The chair will restate and then vote on the motion. It gets on in the meeting minutes, right? Now, as I mentioned earlier, please, if you want to make a contribution, please get on the agenda, right? You can't just come into the meeting and say, hey, I want to share something. And I know it's kind of maybe new for some of the folks who are from the coding developer community. Usually it's just, you discuss, but this is how it works in the standards development. Let's try it and see. Of course, as I said, I'm bringing something based on my experience developing standards with IEEE. Let's start with this, and we can change it. I mean, if the idea is to make it work for these two communities and be productive, right? If the rules don't help with being productive, then we got to change the rule. But let's start with something that what I know that works, that has worked, and then we can change it as needed. And then, of course, the meeting minutes. I think Brianna is going to help with the meeting minutes. She can go through it. I'm pretty sure she knows what's in there. She'll help with the meeting minutes. And then the voting, right? When I talked about making motions, so let's say someone brings in some contribution, right? They got on the agenda, it's on the agenda, we're going through it, and then make a motion. So when you make a motion for that to make a decision, so it requires consensus, right? So you need a majority of the people in attendance to vote on it. And of course, the voting could be 3, right? You could approve it, do not approve it, or you can always abstain, right? You're neutral, you don't want to vote on it. So there's 3 choices you have. And then in a motion requires, approval of a motion requires majority voting, which is 51%, right? So that's the voting. It's pretty, most of you know this, it's nothing, new. So that's that. And then as far as communication and documentation, right? How do we communicate? Again, I put something based on what we had a call and a few calls and what I've been used to, and I put these things. And so meeting announcements, we're going to use email announcement. Like most likely Brianna would send out an email announcement to all the people on this email list about the upcoming meetings or meeting minutes from the previous meeting, right? All that. And then also we would have a electronic discussion board where just like, asynchronous communication. Like I think we talked about this, I think my understanding is Virgil would help us set up a Discord channel. Is that correct, Virgil?
We were discussing it, and we've just set up a Getter channel. We kind of work on that getter one, at least for rough consensus. So that can change.
Okay, sure. So so we would use that for, so you can, have live discussion, and then public review. So the results, whatever the document that we produce, the progress, we'll publish it, and it'll be available for public review, right? And then of course we'll have GitHub for documents and the code, and what else? Documentation. So we will have an editor. Right now we don't know who that's going to be. It's TBD. So the editor will actually keep track of these issues, comments, make sure the comments are addressed, and also they'll keep track of the log and basically make sure that all the comments are addressed, and we have a document that's acceptable by the members, right? So that's a very high level overview of how you run the meeting, how we operate, and I think I'll stop here. Took like 6 minutes, I guess. Yeah.
Right on. Thank you, Ramesh. We'll leave final comments for Virgil, but just next steps. You can get on the mailing list with the link here. I'm sorry about the fact I can't get it onto a single pane. I'm using a really large screen, and I guess Word just doesn't. I tried a few things, but we will send this out. If you don't get it, send a tweet or a note to myself or Virgil or Ramesh, and we can fix that. And you'll have this link. So there's a mailing list, and then you can join the EEA. And we hope you get excited about one or more of the task forces or creating one of your own. And then you just contact us, and we'll get you on the agenda. One last note about the term mainnet. I want to honor the fact that the Ethereum open source developer community has used mainnet in a particular way and still does, in very specifically referring to the consensus layer. But more generally, it's come into fairly common use now that the mainnet would refer to the Ethereum public blockchain network generally, and we will use that more general conception of the term, both because it's catchy and easy to remember, and it sets this notion of it's not about public or private when it comes to enterprise. It's about there will be public and private transactions. There will be public transactions, private transactions. There'll be open contracts and confidential contracts, but that's done at the functional level, or at the atomic level, not at necessarily a network level. So the mainnet is the middleware in a way for a lot of activity whereas the internet evolves into a stateful internet. So that's why we use the word mainnet and not some other term. Hopefully that's cool with everybody. It's 2 syllables, and that's why I like it, mainnet. With that, Virgil, it's on you. And then Brianna, do we have time for Q&A?
I would like to do Q&A if we can.
We do, yes. We have time for Q&A. We do have some questions that have already been asked. So I'm not sure if you want me to read some of those, or if you just kind of, want to talk to the group. I mean, I don't want to open up the audio because there is a lot of people, so I don't want anybody talking over each other, so I can field all the questions.
Yeah,
what was that, Virgil?
Feel free to use the chat, right?
Yeah, can you copy and paste the questions into the chat?
I won't be able to copy and paste them, but I can read the ones that we have now, and moving forward, the audience can write into the chat. Fantastic. So the first one is a question for Dr. Ramesh. It's from Imran Bashir, and he was asking, what standards have you worked on at the IEEE?
So the IEEE standards, blockchain.ieee.org is the website. It's just blockchain.ieee.org. So the standards was started like in June 2017. So currently I've been working on a group 2418.1. It's blockchain for IoT, So we have currently we have a draft. So there's like 23 member companies, corporate, big companies are involved. In fact, I mean, I can share the link. So we have a draft. We're trying to work on the second draft, and we'll probably go to ballot like next spring. That, and also I'm one of there's two co-chairs for the blockchain initiative. I'm one of the co-chairs, and I actually oversee the entire standards work under the IEEE blockchain initiative. There's actually over a dozen standards working groups right now. You can take a look at the standards link there. So I think I can send the link, Brianna, so they could, in fact, they can find my email address there as well.
Great. Okay. So we also have another question from Sergey Nazarov, and he's asking, what do you guys think of this new protocol by the COOM project?
Virgil, you want to grab that?
I guess we'll have to go Google that COOM project.
Can we unmute Sergey and ask him what he thinks of it?
Yes, I don't see any link about that. Yeah, I know if I Google COOM project on Google, both with and without the space, I get probably not what you're referring to. Yeah. All right. Sorry. I don't know what to say. If you can send us a link, I'll look at it and I'll get back to you. All right.
Okay.
Next.
So the next question is from Aaron McMillan, and it says, is there a reason you went for an IM tool rather than a forum? It seems like an async communication tool would be better suited for this.
You're
That's
not the only one to have said that.
Yeah. Forum, good. So this is a moving, like we're just kicking off the thing. We're hoping that you guys get involved. That's why we're having this call, and that's why it's a public call. Because this is a movement. This isn't just one little thing for a couple of companies. This is a movement, the Mainnet. So get involved, and if you want to do that, I'm not gonna, yeah, let's table it. So
there have been proposals to do asynchronous things either on discourse.org or on twist.com. People are divided on this issue, and so I think we haven't quite decided what we want to do yet. But the path of least resistance so far has just been using Gitter.
Yeah, but it's not set in stone, and we can move. We're achieving rough consensus as we speak.
Okay. All right. So another question we have is the work group initiative to establish standards with respect to technical implementation, or will it also speak to the framework for implementation? And that was by Jody.
Thanks, Jody. Yeah. Because this is new territory, and it's something Ron Resnick, the head of the EEA, said yesterday when we were rehearsing. He said, this is all new territory, and we should make this point. We've never done something where the endeavor was to support standards of something that was not endogenous to the EEA, right? So this is the standards and specifications. How the Ethereum mainnet evolves is the domain of a lot of people out there. And all we can do is support that open community. We have this industry group, and there's a membership of that industry group. So we're operating within that organizational framework, but we're kind of working out how to do that and honor the membership while also honoring the fact that this is a public movement that we have to engage in. I mean, if the developers building the mainnet don't listen to any of the work that we do, then it goes nowhere. I'm not sure I answered the question properly. Virgil, you want to take a crack at it, or Ramesh, you've got something?
Oh, Virgil.
That's good for Ramesh.
Yeah, Ramesh.
No, I feel like it's it's going to be like a dance. I mean, the enterprise would tell what we need, and the developers would tell like what they can do, they cannot do, and I think it's going to be like a moving thing, right? It's not like one is going to move faster than the other tries to catch up. I think that's the reason why we're bringing the parties together, is to have the dance, not like one move faster and the other have no clue what the other one is doing, and they have a hard time trying to use it right? So I think, it's a good time, but it's going to be quite an interaction between the enterprise and the Ethereum community, right? It's the spec from the business is business spec, right? And then the coding spec, what they can do and they cannot do, is going to come from the community. So Virgil, you may add to this how the dance is going to play out.
I think the most important thing from the current dev side is that I think they think they don't like being told what to do, and that's kind of like the first thing. They're saying, look, this is so I guess they appreciate suggestions. And if you can say, hey, if you did this, here's like a list of wonderful things that would happen, and they'd say, oh, that's very nice. And I could also imagine you say, oh, here's something we'd like to get done. And by the way, if you just happen to implement this, there may be some money that is provided by our benevolent corporate sponsors to make this a reality. And so I imagine that's probably, I think you'll get the most out of the devs with that.
Yeah, I couldn't say that better. Yeah, no, I think that's, yeah, let us endeavor not to tell people what to do. We can make really good suggestions, and we can write things really, really well, and we'll and then the merits of those arguments will be taken up or not. And I think you bring up something really important, Virgil, which is there's a very strong economic base in this membership of companies who can throw in when things matter to them. And so, yeah, this can come along with some focusing power to say, hey, we're going to put some developer effort or some money into maybe even some bounties into specific efforts, right?
So actually, I give you a nice example of how this is done. So okay, so a Zuko from Zcash, he really wanted this EIP passed. He wanted a pre-compile for the Blake 2B algorithm, and he was like really into this. And but it kept getting blocked for like whatever reason. And he's like, look, if you can get me this, I can do fancy compatibility between Ethereum and Zcash, and that's an awesome thing. And we said, great. So Ethereum Foundation and the Zcash Foundation, we joint funded a Gitcoin ticket, and someone did it, and so they implemented it, and it is now going into the next hard fork. So that is one definite success scenario. And so I forget how much it cost us. I think we each put in like 5K. So for 5K, and it's a reasonable idea. I guess that's how difficult it is to implement. But for things that aren't that hard, that's about what it will cost you.
Ramesh, I thought I caught you wanting to step in when I was speaking.
No worries. No, I was just saying that I'm assuming that we can always make a request to the developer community, right? What the enterprise wants or would like to see for them to be able to use this in the enterprise setting, right? But then details, Virgil would know about how things get, who's going to do it and how you resources and all of that, right? That he might know on that part, yeah.
We might say something about the timing of this. In 2015. It wasn't the right time. I was part of the Great Divergence. I made the decision to go away from Ethereum on something. And we did that because we thought we would break the community if we tried to force feed the community with our intentions and our priorities. So we went off and explored those while the main thrust of Ethereum went after the key things that we needed to get after, which were scaling and and other things, scaling and also scaling and scaling. And you know, distracting the community can be you know, you have to pick your timing. I think what's exciting is that 2020, 2021 look to be shaping up with eea-eth 2.0 as the moment where we can contemplate a little bit wider variety of scope in terms of requirements and non-functional requirements and functional requirements. And now is the time for us to be able to, and if we can do it in a focused way where we're not overtaxing the community's ability to focus on stuff, because we can say, hey, here's a thing. It's coherent, it's well written. Lots of companies want it. Here's why they want it. That's going to go a little bit farther. So it's, you know, this isn't 2015, it's 2019, and it's time.
Next question.
Great. So we also have another question from Imran Bashir, and it says, it's a question for everyone. It says, what are your thoughts on interoperability between Mainnet and Enterprise Ethereum? What is the main aim of this working group? Is it making public Mainnet suitable for enterprises, or enabling interoperability between Enterprise Ethereum and the Mainnet?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. So there actually is one that I just recently started pushing for. It's this thing from Cosmos called PEGI, and it allows a proof of authority chain to know the state of a proof of work chain. So this would allow sort of EEA chains to be able to use, so either they could say look up ENS names on Mainnet, or they could verify the state of certain maker CDPs, things like that. I must admit, it's a little not obvious to me. what are all the times that an EEA chain would want to know the state of Mainnet, but I suspect they exist. And
yeah, I'd agree with, well, and so there are companies like Unibright is on, you know, you heard from Sergey Nazarov, which would be Chainlink, and those folks. I'll say that my personal interest is, you know, in the kind of the task force I'm probably going to be interested in a lot is not so much chain-to-chain interop, which is definitely an important part. It is using the mainnet as a way for state machines of any type to be able to work together without dropping breadcrumbs along the way that give away your strategic position, which is a neat trick, given that it's a public environment, but it also is a way to kill off those silos, right? So we need a world where we don't have silos in B2B integration that cost us trillions of dollars. So, you know, how the mainnet works with state machines of systems of record of many types, either with a little bit of Oracle sauce but other tricks as well, is sort of a main thrust. And so I suspect there'll be a task force about that.
Great. So Virgil, I just muted you. So if you want to talk, I'll have to unmute you. So we have more of a statement, but also a question similar to the last one. It says, what are the specific areas of initial focus for this working group? And Sanjay, it's from Sanjay Bakshi, and he said, per our work needed for the hybrid main and net, it's needed in edge computing. So not really a question too much that we haven't already answered, but figured I would get it out there.
So trusted edge computing, I probably want to unmute Virgil there. Ramesh, you have thoughts there? Is IEEE fooling around with that stuff?
Not on edge computing, cloud computing, but I think it was more like what the first sentence, Brianna, was like, what topics we will focus on, the scope of this mainnet working group?
Yeah, it says what specific areas will be the initial focus, which I think we kind of already answered it, but right. You're free to answer it again if you'd like.
Right, I think it's in the document. In fact, John went through the list of topics that we will be focusing on in the beginning. And of course, if the community has other topics that they would like to focus on, shoot us an email.
I should hasten to add, I only put those in as straw men or straw people, right? Too, because the ones we will be focusing on are the ones that you will be telling us all to focus on.
Assuming that you're interested, the person who's proposing is interested in pursuing it as well. There are times you get an idea, but there's nobody to really pursue it, correct? I mean, that happens a lot in a forum like this. But
in fact, our biggest challenge, I think, is going to be something we didn't anticipate. We didn't anticipate this big of a crowd coming in. We didn't quite anticipate the movement that was going to well up underneath this. We did hardly any advertising for this thing. We got hundreds of people. I think that our biggest challenge in the coming weeks will be organizing this. It's my day job, and we've got a whole team of people that are really committed to this. So we will put in the effort, and we'll stumble along the way in terms of organizing. When you have this big of a group coming in, we'll stumble, but we'll endeavor to get it right.
Yeah, no, this all sounds good. I mean, I know I personally, I think probably the easiest low hanging fruit is probably some kind of cross chain interop. Yeah, I mean, making it possible where EEA chains can read from Mainnet, and hopefully maybe they could set up an oracle on Mainnet so that we could read from EEA chains. Both of those sound like, you know, very tractable problems, and you know, it's always a good first step.
There is a trusted off-chain compute working group, also part of the EEA, very successful one. I'm sure that we'll be having conversations with them and finding ways to work with them. They've just introduced a new code base to the Hyperledger Foundation called Avalon, right? And so that's a great example of what the sort of thing that could come out of this is, you know, code talks and talk walks, but you still need some talk. So, but especially when that leads to good code or is informed by good code, I think that they've set a very good standard for how that can play out. So that would be trusted edge compute or trusted off-chain or edge compute working group. There. So if you're joining the EEA, you want to take a look at them too.
Great. So we have a comment and a question from Jim Jagalski, and it says, standards are relatively useless without open source reference implementations, and therefore a overall strategy regarding open source is critical. What is the current thinking regarding such a strategy?
We're not, so all right, so in spirit I agree with you, but like, okay, but EA doesn't have developers, so like, what are you gonna do? Currently, I mean, I agree it's suboptimal. Probably what I imagine we're going to do is that we're going to have, you know, sort of specifications written by EEA members, and then I imagine, you know, we will probably, I guess we'll like shop it around to see if anyone will want to do this, and I imagine we'll get probably a tepid response, and then after that, we're going to have to do some kind of collective funding for someone to implement this, and it would presumably come from the EEA members. Just realistically, that's how I imagine this is going to play out.
Ramesh, how does that play out with, I mean, you know, you've been at this for a while on the spec dev side of things.
So, I mean, I can understand the spirit of the person who was, I forget the name, talking about open source. So what's the name?
Jim is very known in open source.
So I can see what you're saying. As I said, I've been in both worlds. I used to be a coder, and I still have developers that I work with on a daily basis, and I work with the companies. So this is kind of where we are. I mean, it's a very interesting time that we're trying this, right? So, you know, whenever I talk to companies, enterprises, like members of EEA, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning, I've talked to many government folks who want to use blockchain, right? In China, Europe, they all want some specification to build their product. And of course, I understand open source is not about that. So we are trying to see if we can do something here in this mainnet to kind of like bridge this, create a bridge between these two worlds. I mean, one world is crying for standards because, you know, government, you know, they're building a system to collect taxes. I told you, like Alicante, Spain, there's 2 million people in that province. The head of that, you know, IT department is telling me they're using blockchain. They want to put vehicle track record, and they want to collect taxes using blockchain so they can track, right, where the money goes and all of that. But they're asking, because I was representing IEEE and I gave a talk, the guy is asking me, is there a standard that I can use to build a system? I'm like, so I said, we'd have to develop it. We have to work together and develop it, right? So you can see there's people from all the EEA members are looking for standards. All the government folks that I'm talking to the last year and a half, I keep hearing this again and again. We need a standard. We need a standard, right? And of course, I know the open source communities, like, they just come up with this idea. They love it. They have the passion. They just code it, right? They don't like talk to somebody. Like, they don't like to be told. They don't like somebody to be, bossing them around. And they just do it because they have the passion to do this idea, So
and so they should, right? I mean, so there's. I think you said it well. It's a dance, right?
Dance.
It reminds me of my day job, my other day job in product development, right? So, as a product person, you do the dance with engineering, and most product people, the best product, there's a great line that says, every line of code is a business decision, and every business decision that doesn't understand the code is probably a bad one, right? So I require code review. I mean, like debug style code review, even among designers who don't know how to write code, because it gives us insight, right? So there is a dance, and I think ultimately it comes back to adoption, doesn't it? That there are organizations out there that could be doing great things for the mainnet, being part, really consolidating the world around the mainnet, the stateful internet, and they do require some kind of respectably formatted and structured standards that have evolved.
Right.
And when that exactly happens, well, you got to have code to have something, and then but then you have to know what you want to code. So it's a dance.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can't be like this forever, right? I mean, we're all in the blockchain space. We have to come together and work together, and businesses, governments, developers. I mean, we all have to come together and solve this problem. I mean, otherwise, blockchain won't be used by governments or enterprises.
I sure would like to see lots and lots of companies storing up gas reserves so that they can do business on the mainnet, right?
Yeah, I think that's why we are doing this, right? Trying to see if we can help come up with some specs that could help governments and enterprises build business solutions using mainnet,
right? Brianna, another question? I'm like Captain America. I can do this all day.
So the next thing in line is not really a question. It's more of just a statement from Andreas. It says, enterprises don't know what they do not understand. There is a lot of education required that this working group can help with. For example, economic security guarantees, advantages of probabilistic finality, etc. So that was just more of a statement. Don't know if you guys want to talk on that for a bit.
Yes.
I mean, basically agree. Yeah, I don't just, soft agree.
Yeah, get involved. Right. Let's get that on the agenda.
Awesome. So the next question is, how does ETH 2.0 impact enterprises' reluctance/interest in using the mainnet while it is in this state of change? And that's from Steve Miller.
That shouldn't be that bad. One thing that will make that makes ETH2 more pleasant enterprises is ETH2 is being architected with a lot more light client support in mind. So that's like the good thing. The not so good thing is that, well, it's not out yet, and this makes people like a little nervous. I suppose the hope would be, I guess if you want to do anything that was like truly radical, at like the consensus level, my advice to you would be to wait until ETH2 comes out. Just unless you want to get really deep into this, in which case, you know what, I can get you on the phone with Vitalik, and you can work it out. Now, so like what you're talking about, like a thing for how do we do taxes on the blockchain? How do we do this license registrations? How do we do things like that? These are all things that do not depend on ETH2. Like the VAT, like basically none of the ERC standards will be changing with ETH2. And so yeah, so probably just stick to ERCs, you're good.
And also, like companies like Ernst & Young came out famously with Nightfall work long before ETH2, you know, and they've deployed that on the, you know, in not only open source, but in public domain code. They donated to the world, to the universe, not even under Apache license, which I thought was awesomely cool. And that was all done right now. I mean, you can use that code today. They didn't wait.
Great. We also have another question. It says, the EEA already has a cross-chain interoperability task force. Will this group focus on Ethereum 2.0?
I was waiting for you to jump in there, Virgil, but yeah. I would say that certainly the advent of ETH2 and the specificity of it, the fact that the roadmap exists and is accelerating, and more people feel like it's stabilizing and something they can believe in, certainly augurs the timing of the advent of this group and others that will spring up around it. Right? It's time for the mainnet to take center stage. So
I wouldn't worry too much about ETH2. So I mean, okay. I mean, like ETH2, I think is probably going to be fine. Like, so I remember I was talking to Talik like a few months ago, and I was saying, and so we were saying like doing hiring for new researchers for ETH2, and I said, hey, you know, do you want to hire, you know, these new people? And you know, and they were like, really, you know, we really like them. And Vitalik said, no, we are good on ETH2. Like, it is coming along. I'm like, are you sure, bro? Because, you know, like, I mean, because we got the money, like, you know, and we already like them. He's like, I am sure we got this. I'm like, okay, you know, and we decided to put them on something else. So at the very least, there is confidence from the ETH2 team that this is, they are not requesting any additional resources to get this done, which is a very good sign.
Brad, we want to count it down to, we got about, what, 7 minutes left? Want to count it down to a couple more?
Yeah. So we just have really just one more question. Oh, just two. One more just came in. This one's from Cody Burns. It says, will the eea-eth encourage public chain nodes work to meet the EEA specifications? And then in parentheses, this is private chain specs, etc. Or is the expectation to create a separate but equal ecosystem where the public is free to go in any direction they choose and the EEA is just standards focused?
Yeah, the EEA in this capacity, we can't speak for any other working group. In this capacity, guys, check my 6 on this. It's a very important statement. I don't want to get it wrong. This is suggestions, right? This is just coordinating the enterprise or the business or EEA community to make respectful, participatory, you know, focused input into what already exists, and then, you know, and provide the service of maybe, you know, upping the ante on the resulting overall specifications. But that's no, it's not. There's no control structure here, right? Did I pull that right?
There's no control. There's only suggestions. So no, there's no expectation that Mainnet will conform to the EEA standards. I mean, I guess no one's ever actually proposed that to me before. So I guess I have to think about that. But my first impression is skepticism, right? And no. I mean, so okay, I'll tell you like originally how I got, that might be a little helpful. So one reason I got involved, so occasionally I would have companies, some company will be like some large multinational, and they'll be like, hey, I want to do something on Ethereum, but I want to like tweak the standard or something. I'm like, great. You should go join the Magicians Forum, and you can go post there, and you know, and you'll like make friends. And they say, oh no, we don't want to make friends in a public forum. And I'm like, oh well, I guess
they should want to make friends.
I mean, whatever. Regardless, that was they felt like too exposed, you know, whatever it was, they weren't into it. So one hope is that this will give an avenue for organizations like that to be able to, to contribute usefully. Right. So that's at least it.
Great. And so I'm just going to close out the questioning with the last question that I'm going to pull. Any other questions that we have on here that we haven't answered, I can distribute them to the panelists, and we can probably distribute some answers. But the last question I wanted to ask is, will any of the shards be reserved for specific use cases, i.e. could one be reserved for the financial industry? And that was from John Whelan.
Okay, so this I can respond to. So, okay, there has been a proposal to make these things called execution environments. So you're not looking for a shard, you're looking for execution environment that you're looking for. You can put all kinds of crazy rules on those. So there have been, okay, well, it's really speculative. It's really speculative. And so there have been proposals there's been a proposal where you have one like maximum paranoia execution environment where the most lowest bytecode level is itself amenable to formal verification. So you don't even got to worry about compiler bugs. Like, that's how paranoid you are. And people have proposed things, having environments like this for things like hardcore financial applications. It has also been proposed that we absorb Dogecoin as an execution environment.
Wow. I think that was a great question to go out on, because it also exposed another point of this dance that Ramesh was bringing up before, which is it's not just about, it's also about the educational aspect, right? Getting back to the business community, what's going on, helping them understand. There's a lot of misinformation, misunderstanding about how things are working and how things are going to work, what the roadmap looks like. And I think that's definitely a legitimate part of this overall organization. And you know, again, there should be a task force around that kind of thing. So education, we can contribute. You know, we're not going to be the education organization, but we can contribute a lot to making sure that there's clarity and understanding among certainly our members. Ramesh, I'd like to ask one last question of Ramesh, and we didn't rehearse this, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot, so you can pass. But yeah, you've been in this kind of world of evolving, emerging technology, as we have. It's been my career too. But you know, you've seen it as the evolution turns into crystallization more than once. Have you seen anything like this before in your past? What does it make you think about in terms of you know, emerging technology?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. I've at least seen, I guess, 3 different fields. I tend to change every 5 years my field. So I used to work on AI and then nanotechnology, now 3 years in blockchain. But all along I've been coding, you know, different forms, C++, MATLAB, and all, you know, different programs. So, you know, to be honest, what we are trying to do here is something new. Usually these, you know, enterprises, as I told you in the beginning in our call, enterprises is all about IP, intellectual property, and they whatever they develop, they want to protect it, you know, secret sauce, trademark, and all of this, right? And whereas, you know, developer community, open source, you know, especially blockchain, you know, they're all about everything is open, right? You can just, you know, you can just Google it, everything is there. I mean, there's no proprietary stuff, and you know, all the code, everything is, you know, you can find it and you contact them. They're open to talk about what they're doing. You know, they're pretty open, transparent role. It's a transparent role.
That's not new, right? I mean, we were doing that back in the 80s, 70s, you know,
yeah.
You know, with the internet standards in general, right?
Correct. So at least I got deep into this in the blockchain space. Of course, it's been kind of going on for a while. So I really see this transparent world, and you got this, you know, closed world, all about intellectual property and all that. Now, in the thing is, in the case of what we are trying to do is we are trying to see if we can somehow, we need to promote adoption. I think the reason why we are doing this mainnet working group is to make Ethereum mainnet be adopted by enterprises and governments, correct? That's the whole purpose of this working group, right? Adoption is the biggest thing. Yeah, so you want it to be adopted. That's why we're having this meeting, this work, and we are asking people to help with that. When I say adoption is, you come up with some specs. I mean, as I said, everywhere I go, they're asking me, do I have the standard? I'll give you, going back to this Alicante province in Spain, they have built a system for use in their province. It's working, but they want to expand into the entire Spain. They want actually copy this, replicate this to other regions in Spain, the whole country. And the guy is saying, when I go talk to other provinces, they're asking me what standard I'm using.
And that crystallization process, do you think this is the moment? Is that what you're feeling?
I believe we have an opportunity here to do. Yeah, I think we have an opportunity, the right time, to do something here, and that's my view on this. I mean, that's the reason why when Ron asked me, because I've seen the issues, I see what's going on. There's people crying for standards, and of course, developer community has, they have their own kind of standards, like the coding and EIP and ERC standards, all that. So,
which is good.
Which is good. So, the reason I want to see what I can do here is to see how we can bridge this gap and help with the adoption. And coming back to John, I think it hasn't really. It's a very challenging thing. I think it hasn't happened very successfully in many areas.
Well, we might be able to help avoid some pain, right? But it does happen organically, and so it's not like we're going to try to put some artificial process to make it happen inorganically, right? But it does seem like, Virgil, would you agree as well that this is a good moment to start a very long journey towards that crystallization process, and that.
Yeah. No, I guess, I mean, for you to get anything done, I don't know, there's like a famous thing. It's like, if when you begin something, if what you can do can already be done, you are too late. So, yeah, so no, I mean, so we have maybe like, what, 6-7 months, maybe, I mean, between 6 to 12 months, lead time. Yeah, no, that should be plenty of time to kind of get things going.
Right on. Well, with that, I think Brianna, unless I'm wrong, our time is up. And so we can take you out. Let's take you out on a song. Whenever I think of the mainnet, I think of the idea of the mainnet being the magic message bus of the internet. So I think we will let the Who take us out with Magic. Too much magic bus. All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for the time. Please get in touch, tune in and turn on, and we'll see you soon.